Next to her is Ali Kofoy from the Green Party. A couple reminders as we're going. Speak right into the mic. Kelly would like you to have the mic within a thumb of your mouth. And also, since we're recording this, as much as it's polite to learn, because our YouTube, and that's something I will explain through the night, we've had literally thousands of hits on YouTube. We are amazed at the number of people that have been using it for whatever purposes. With that, let's get right into it. We'll start right off with Najib. The first question.
Can you tell us whether and to what extent the chemicals that are currently being used to control the mosquito population are harmful to the environment, to us, residents, and to other species?
Good question. Some of the chemicals that we use are harmful to organisms, especially the adulticides. So you try and get away from using adulticides and try and get more into larvicides. Now the larvicides themselves aren't totally good for the environment because there's other organisms that will actually be affected, the larvae of those other organisms. A lot of the organisms that would compete with here in Key West, the Egyptine mosquitoes in the larva phase, we've actually eliminated. So we don't have that competition. So we're actually having to either use more larvicides or use more chemicals. Now when you get in the upper keys with the nuisance mosquitoes, you're going to have to use more larvicides. And that in itself is very regulated. You're only allowed to put so much down. You have to document everything. Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on that. What harm, if anything, can it do to humans, the chemicals they're using now, and or our pets, or our wildlife here in the Keys, in such a fragile ecosystem? And I'll put that to Jill.
I was just having a discussion about this earlier. I think over the last couple of years, a lot of the people are starting to see reductions in, for instance, the butterfly population and other populations here. I think it's very important that we find chemicals that we can use that are non-harmful to the environment. I know that the ones we are using are not, they say they're non-toxic to humans and etc. But over the past couple of years, there has been signs of reduction in the environment with certain species. So I think it's important that when we're purchasing these chemicals, that we look for chemicals that are absolutely, obviously they're not going to be 100% non-toxic, but we specialize in looking for the ones that aren't going to harm our environment. These are things that are important to us, that people care for. So I think we need to be very selective in the chemicals that we purchase. Obviously, we need to reduce the mosquito population in the same essence, so it's not always going to be a win-win situation, but we need to be very cautious in materials and stuff that we are purchasing.
However, what harm, if any, can it do to humans? Has that been studied?
The research that I have read on it says that it is not toxic to humans and or pets. A lot of the BTI granules and stuff that they're using, they say, if a pet did eat it or something, that they weren't going to die. That it especially attacks the digestive system of the mosquitoes. So from what I have read, and I've been attending the mosquito board meetings since January, from what I've gathered so far, there's not a direct harm to humans or pets, the granules and stuff that they're using currently.
I'll start with the Mosquito Control District has had their fair share of controversy in the past. So when you look back on the history of the district, what would you say disturbs you most and you'd like to see change?
Good question. Well, when you start from the past, mosquito control was pretty much in the hole money-wise. They had to borrow money. Right now, we're trying to control the spending. So as far as having a balanced budget, I think that right now in itself is one of the main concerns. And there's a lot of things coming up that really can pull that out of whack, especially the overhead.
Over the last several years, I think the thing that has disturbed me the most is the spending. Obviously, this is a taxpayer-funded organization. Over the last several years, we've read in the papers, we've seen, there's been, you know, it goes back to Spoto with the scandal, and it goes back to these huge salaries, and I think that organization needs to buckle down like a lot of the other organizations and the Keys are doing. I think this will be the first year in several years that they're going to balance their budget. And also, it's also the year that there's going to be a 6.91% tax increase. So I think they just really need to buckle down, purchase what's necessary, and I think that they just need to realize that these taxpayers, you know, these are tax dollars that they're using. It's not just they won the lotto and they've got all this money. So I think it's very important that, you know, the board continues. I think they're in a great direction right now. I think they're headed in a good direction, despite the recent tax increase. But I think that they are getting their spending under control, and I think that over the next couple of years that they're really going to start utilizing the tax dollars more effectively. And I think that's what they have done in the past as far as, you know, the lifetime benefits, et cetera, that everyone's reading about. So.
This question is for both candidates, and Ali will start the question with you, and it kind of dovetails into what Jill was talking about. This past, at the last Mosquito Control Board meeting, they did vote to raise the tax rate on the citizens of Monroe County, and that was a very controversial decision. Will you commit, if elected, for the next fiscal year, for the 2013-2014 fiscal year, not to raise taxes for the Mosquito Control District and live within the budget that you have?
Good question. I attended that meeting, and I was totally against raising taxes. I wanted rollback. There was a little bit of political maneuvering, which really made me mad as a citizen watching that. There are still cuts that could be made. I've read the line items, and one of the things that really get me is the genetic modified mosquitoes. We've got it cut down from 100,000 to 10,000, but we're actually going to be doing the research for this company. That doesn't sit well with me as a citizen. At the primary election podium, I had called for a 50% reduction in the commissioner's salary. That would have saved us $50,000 right there. That didn't happen, but they did compromise and bring it down 10%.
Well, so if I'm counting votes, can I put you in the category that you will not raise the tax rate next year?
I will not raise taxes. I'm at rollback.
Jill?
Absolutely, I will not raise taxes. I think this year we've raised taxes for the next, year or two that we're moving forward. I think they need to start working within their means. A 7% tax increase is pretty steep considering what you're seeing, other organizations at 2 and 3%. So absolutely, if and when elected, that budget needs to be looked at again, and there are still certain areas that can be reduced that they just need to let go of some of the entitlements and some of the things that are out there to reduce that. So yes, you can absolutely, I will adopt rollback if elected next year.
Can I come in with just one more thing? When we asked the director to bring us a budget, and he brings us an 11% increase, that's unacceptable. When we ask him to bring back another budget and he brings back a 7% increase, that's unacceptable. Even without a balanced budget, the board actually asked him to balance the budget and come back. So
Okay, I'll start with Molly. I had a look at your website, and you have a link in there about the toxo mosquitoes. I might be saying that wrong. And I was wondering, this is a different way of combating the Aedes aegypti. I was wondering if you were in favor of bringing them to our county.
The mosquito not just talking about is the elephant mosquito, which is getting tested over in Asia. It is in direct competition with the Egypti mosquito in the larva phase. So it actually eats the larva of the Egypti mosquito. Now, this could be used here. The problem is you're dealing with another mosquito. Now, it is a larger mosquito, so that it really doesn't go after humans because it knows it's going to be killed if it lands on a human. So, it's looking for alternatives to larva reductions in the Egypti. I think it should be looked at, but actually, it was in our environment before the use of adulticides has wiped it out. And that's why we have the Egypti mosquito coming on.
I'm going to follow up on Naja's question again. And Ollie, this is for you. If in fact chemicals have hurt some of our species here in the Keys that we've been using, and what would be your objection to testing it here, even though it hasn't been proven and was here before? Is it strictly budgetary?
For the alternatives?
Yes.
For the alternatives, we have evolved mosquito control to the point where the citizens are looking to mosquito control to use the resources that they have in the most effective way. And the resources that we have are the helicopters and the planes, and then the larvicides and the adulticides. So I think it really does come down to cost. So you have to put boots on the ground to accomplish a lot of the larvicide.
So you're saying it's more about what we perceive rather than what might be a little more viable in the long run? As taxpayers?
As taxpayers, we always want the most effective and cost-effective thing that we can use. We want mosquito control to be doing that. Now, mosquito control themselves, being able to use other alternatives, just by the way that they've gone about with genetically modified mosquitoes, they're willing to bring a technology that isn't even permitted by any of our government organizations. And really, to me, it's like, if it's too good to be true, it is. And for genetically modified mosquitoes, when they come in here and claim they are a company, and we would pay them, when I go out and buy something, a car or whatever, I do my research, and I want the best available product that's proven that I will buy. So when they did that, it set up the lights for me.
Okay, this question is for Joe. Joe, how would you wrestle with supplying the effort in trying to attack dengue while still putting together a manageable budget?
That's a good question. Dengue, obviously, the outbreak we had in 2010 is a serious concern, and we don't ever want to see that come back. There is a large amount of money put aside in the budget to attack dengue in the event that it does occur. $1 million or so. I don't know if every year that's what we need to be budgeting for, but I think that, all the preventative methods out there as far as, letting the taxpayers know, letting the citizens know, don't have these standing water. Just the educational aspect. I think if we educate the residents more and the citizens more and give them different tools that they can use to help reduce the mosquito control population, I think that would be, a huge cost savings to the district in itself. We do need to keep money aside for them because God forbid that ever, attacked the keys and we ever did have a case that we would need to fight the efforts. But I think that we need to get into more of the educational aspect and get out there because there's still people that I talk to. I filed in January and I've been talking to a lot of people. There's still people out there that don't know that you can't leave a bucket of standing water that they'll breathe. So I think just getting out into the community, having more of the inspectors out in the field, I know they do a great job of educating, but just maybe taking it to the next level.
Again, this is a question for both candidates, and Jill, we'll start with you. With which past or present member of the governing board of the Mosquito Control Board do you find yourself most philosophically aligned? And explain your answer.
Can I please sit on this? That's going to be a tough one. Each of the members on the board are obviously all different. I would have to say that I would have to put myself in the middle between Jack Bridges and Bill Goodman. I can't really say I'm more. I can understand. They both, I think, have been a great aspect to the Mosquito Control Board. I think they both are great businessmen that have brought great amount of respect to the district, and I think they're bringing that integrity back. So I would have to say that I would philosophically align myself between the two of them, if that's acceptable for you.
I'm a big Phil Goodman fan. I think what he has brought to mosquito control has shaken up the board, shaken up mosquito control, made them think outside the box. It's too bad he hasn't been elected. It's too bad he was appointed. To be able to get someone on that board to do that, you have to appoint them. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. That wraps up mosquito control for the mayor.